you know, I paid for that trip. I paid dearly for that trip. On the way back from Alabama, we had gotten through across Huntsville and had come on up and was in Nashville, heading north out of Nashville, and it was just drizzling. And it seemed to me that they were flying down the road, and I actually jumped up in the back seat. I was sitting in the back seat, and I jumped straight up and said, "Why don't you slow this?" I had some words to say. I had taken some stuff my sister had given me to help keep me woke. It wasn't no dose, I don't know what it was, but when I didn't take any stuff like that again for 15 years. That stuff messed me up. I should have stayed at home. And Eve was given to Adam to be in companionship and relationship with him as a protector. I know you don't think the woman is to protect, but she can protect you, son. The Bible says that God will succor us, because he has suffered in Hebrews 2:18 and has been tempted, and he is able to succor them that are tempted. That is, he is able to relieve us when we're suffering. Part of the image of God in man or humankind was that he would be relational. So God made him in his image. In the image of God made he them male and female. The subject man in this text moves from singular noun to a plural pronoun. It moves from the singular noun of man to made he them male and female. They were in the image of God. God is relational. I said to you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and they are one. And that's why God told them to become one, because they, the Trinity, are one. This relationship, that of humanity, exists on three levels. One level is inter-perspective or inter-relational. I got to have a relationship with me. Now we call that self-image. We call it how we perceive ourselves. Now, if you don't have a healthy image of yourself, you're not going to have healthy relationships with other folk. Anybody listen to me? Now, gentlemen, this is important. If you don't have a healthy relationship with yourself, you will never have a healthy relationship with a woman. And the only men that you'll have healthy relationships with are those that will tolerate you and your stuff. I know this ain't what y'all thought it was going to be. And I got to take my time because my energy's at a premium. If I run hard now, I won't have nothing at the end. So I got to climb this hill slow. You understand what I'm saying?
Take your time.
And take a station break every now and then. We have to be one in relationship with ourselves. And then the other is relationship with each other. That's the second level. And the third level is relationship with the Lord. The first one is relationship with me. The second one is with others. And the third one is with God. Now, I'm not saying that's the order of importance, but those are the three. Me with me with God, me with you. You got that? The preacher says here, or speaks here in terms of material, that is of the same substance. In his explanation of how we better one another. Now, things that are of the same substance can better things that are of the same substance it is of, which means man can better man. Are you listening to me? You don't believe that, do you? Let me show you one place where man betters man. Is at the time you get to be 2 years old, they cart you off to preschool. They didn't cart us off to preschool. They didn't know what preschool was when I was coming along. They didn't have that concept in their mind. We went to kindergarten, but man was bettering man. Are you listening to me? It's that process. Even when the child is born, the mother and the father begin to train and teach that child. It's man bettering man. Iron sharpening iron. The best to train me is somebody like me. Are you listening to me? Don't send a baboon to teach me. Now, some of us ain't got the sense of one, and we about could be taught by it. Or we act like we haven't got the sense of one. Listen to what he says. Iron sharpens iron. You know, iron is developed initially from a pyrotechnology, and it was limited by that. And all that is the ancient furnaces which could melt copper, but they couldn't melt iron. Now, they could melt copper at 1,083 degrees Celsius. It would need to be 2,800 degrees to melt iron. Now, I know some of y'all know how hot it is when it's 2,800 degrees, don't you? I understand, though, that hell is going to be hotter than that. I mean, just in case anybody's planning on spending a vacation there, I just want you to know. Ain't no air conditioners down there either. But you know, it's interesting. It was 100 degrees around here. And in the sun, some of the indexes were 105, 110, 115. And those little kids that were left in that car down there somewhere, and they arrested the parents. And it was about 110 degrees in the car. Now, that's hot enough to give most of us a heat stroke. 2,800 degrees, you would be dead a mile away from the heat. But that's what it would take. And so what they did with these ancient furnaces was to put wind pipes on or blow pipes on and bellows, which then made sufficient enough heat to generate enough heat to melt the iron or to melt the impurities out of the iron and to create sponge like iron blooms, which had to be reheated and hammered to knock away the impurities of the slag and the charcoal, and to make wrought iron. The iron product produced in this manner was not as tough as hard bronze. Let me read this to you. And could not be cast in molds, since it was not liquefied. The use of charcoal in the shaft furnaces, which created a reducing atmosphere of carbon monoxide, made it possible to efficiently separate iron from its oxidized and carbonate ores. Now, I said a couple of things to you, and the first one was it had impurities. The second one I said to you is that it had to be separated from its oxidized and carbonated ores, which are the things that it came from in the ground. The subsequent steps which led to the wide expansion of iron working where carburization and tempering, the incorporation of less than 1% carbon in the wrought iron produced steel. This steel, when heated white hot and rapidly cooled by quenching, produced a tempered product that could attain a hardness of 6.5 on the Mohs scale, surpassing the best bronze, and having a much higher tensile and strength and shock resistance. Ferrous metal thus could provide working edges on tools and weapons that could withstand intensive wear. What did I say to you? Can anybody explain that back to me? Let me say it this way. This is what it means. That heat would melt away the impurities on or in the iron. But it had to be 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. When it did that, it created a sponge-like substance to be reheated, something spongy and soft. And then it was hammered to get rid of the slag, which was more waste, and charcoal, making wrought iron. It still was not hard enough or hard as bronze. It couldn't be used for much. So they used a little charcoal eventually, which would separate the iron from its oxidized and carbonate ores, and then the rest of the steps were the carbonization and the tempering. Wrought iron would then have less than 1% carbon, producing steel cooled by quenching, attaining a hardness of 6.5 on the Mohs scale. Now harder than the best bronze. Tools and weapons could be made of substance that could withstand intensive wear. 3 reasons I believe Solomon said iron. The first reason is that he uses iron because it is, as we are, defiled from the beginning. Are you listening to me? I'm not talking about Adam. He wasn't. But the rest of us are defiled from the beginning.